Up next in the broadcast, the much-watched United Nations resolution calling on the Security Council to refer North Korea to the International Criminal Court for alleged crimes against humanity makes its way now to the General Assembly. North Korea's special envoy Choe Ryong-hae sits down for talks with Russian President Vladimir Putin in what amounts to Pyongyang's third high-level visit to Moscow this year. The protests in Hong Kong continue, with pro-democracy activists attempting to storm into a government building after police clear a protest site. Primetime News begins now.
Welcome to the program. You're watching Primetime News, coming to you live from Seoul. I am Kang Tae-ri.
And I'm Sean Lim. Thanks for joining us tonight. We begin with the latest out of the UN headquarters in New York, where a committee has adopted a resolution on North Korea's human rights abuses.
It's the strongest worded resolution to date and calls for Pyongyang to be brought to the International Criminal Court. Hwang Ji reports.
A UN Human Rights Committee approved a resolution on Tuesday which calls for the Security Council to refer North Korea to the International Criminal Court for alleged crimes against humanity. The resolution, drafted by the European Union and Japan, passed overwhelmingly with the support of 111 countries. 19 members opposed it and 55 abstained. The approval came despite last-minute protests by North Korea and its allies. Earlier in the day, Cuba proposed an amendment that would have deleted some lines in the resolution that says North Korean leader Kim Jong-un should face the ICC. The committee voted down that proposal. The original EU-Japan drafted resolution will now be put to a vote at a plenary UN assembly in the coming weeks, but while it mounts extra pressure on Pyongyang, it's unlikely to actually bring about any tangible results in the criminal court. Pundits say China and Russia, both veto-wielding permanent members of the Security Council, will almost certainly use their power to stop the North Korean leader being targeted by prosecutors. The two countries voted for the Cuban proposal while voting against the original one. North Korea fired off some sharp warnings before Tuesday's vote, saying the passage of the resolution would prompt it to conduct further nuclear tests. The vote came after a UN investigative panel concluded in February that officials in the north are responsible for systematic killing, torture, and starvation. Hwang Ji, Arirang News.
Although North Korea maintains that it's not for the international community to meddle in its affairs regarding its human rights record, there are detailed accounts from North Korean defectors that make it difficult for the rest of the world to sit back and do nothing. Arirang's Connie Kim has this report.
두 사람 딸도 그 인신매매로 중국에서 이렇게 이제 그 갈라져 가지고 팔렸고 지금 현재는
도망치고 싶은 생각이 정말 너무 엄청 많았고 막 자유롭게 살고 싶은 생각도 그때 당시 없지 않아 있었습니다.
네, 대한민국에 들어와서 북한이 어떤 나라이고 그토록 참혹하게 제가 어떤 생활을 살았는지 깨닫게 되었고.
These three North Korean defectors say they're still somewhat fearful that North Korean agents may target them. But it's not stopping them from speaking out about their experiences, which they hope will raise awareness of what it's like to live in North Korea under the oppressive watch of the regime. The secluded state has long been criticized for its human rights abuses, with hundreds of thousands of people believed to be in political prison camps. With the United Nations General Assembly poised to vote on a resolution that would refer the North Korean regime to the International Criminal Court for human rights violations, experts say first-hand accounts of those abuses can only solidify the case.
The testimonies of the North Korean defectors are evidence of human rights violations in the North. Their stories help the international community to pressure the North to improve conditions.
The defectors hope this is a first step in the long journey toward unification of the two Koreas.
By coming out to the public and speaking out, I hope it leads to a unified Korea. I hope the day will come when we don't have to be separated, when we can have dinner together and drive to our relatives when we want to see them.
Connie Kim, Arirang News.
North Korea's special envoy Choe Ryong-hae sat down for talks with Russian President Vladimir Putin in a move seen as an attempt for Pyongyang to build more friends it can rely on. And though the visiting delegation is also assumed to have pushed for a leader-to-leader summit and other economic projects, will the North have to sell out its natural resources to do so? Our Hwang Sung-hee breaks down some of the potential motives at play.
North Korean leader Kim Jong-un's special envoy Choe Ryong-hae held an hour-long meeting with Russian President Vladimir Putin in Moscow on Tuesday. The Kremlin said Choe delivered a message from the young Kim, but provided no further details. Pundits say the possibility of arranging a summit between the two leaders could also be a part of Choe's mission. Russian Deputy Foreign Minister Sergei Ryabkov had told Russian news agency Itar TASS that the outlook for denuclearization of the Korean peninsula would be the first subject taken up. Choe is being accompanied on his trip by North Korea's chief nuclear envoy Kim Kye-kwan. The North Korean delegation is scheduled to meet with Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov on Thursday before heading to the country's far eastern cities of Khabarovsk and Vladivostok to discuss trade and economic projects. North Korea is seeking further cooperation with Russia in the energy and agriculture sectors, while Moscow wants access to Pyongyang's natural resources worth an estimated $25 billion. This marks the third visit by a high-ranking North Korean official to Moscow this year. In October, Foreign Minister Ri Su-yong visited Russia for the first time in 4 years. Experts say these are part of Pyongyang's efforts to diversify its diplomatic partners as it finds itself on the outs with longtime ally China. Hwang Sung-hee, Arirang News.
As part of an ongoing annual defense drill, the Korean military conducted a large-scale landing exercise off the southeastern coast. According to military officials, its aim is to prevent enemy provocations, including North Korean threats. Our Kim Hyun-bin brings us the details.
At the break of dawn, orders are given and amphibious assault landing vehicles infiltrate enemy territory. Marines hop off the tanks, secure a perimeter, and soon after, neutralize enemy firepower. Air-cushioned vehicles and transport crafts storm in with supplies and heavy arms, while the Korean-made K-1 tank provides fire support. This joint amphibious landing exercise is part of the annual Hoguk exercise, which began in 1996. This year's drill is the largest ever.
Our Navy and Marines get realistic training through this exercise for operations that play a decisive role during war.
The orders are given now 20 miles away from the Asia's largest transport ship, the Tokdo LPX. It is used as a command center, coordinating operations and giving orders to the people manning attack helicopters and armored vehicles. Over 1,400 Marines, 20 vessels, and other amphibious vehicles were involved in this year's exercise. Chief of Naval Operations, Admiral Hwang Gi-chul, emphasized the importance of the drill during a visit to the command center.
Our military's core value dictates we conduct a powerful drill. Through that, we will be able to prevent enemy provocations and come out victorious.
This year's 6-day exercise is aimed at enhancing the Korean military's amphibious landing capabilities and runs through Thursday. Kim Hyun-bin, Arirang News.
Former Japanese Prime Minister Yukio Hatoyama has blamed sitting Prime Minister Shinzo Abe for strained ties with South Korea and China. Speaking at a forum held in Busan, Hatoyama said that Abe's visit to the Yasukuni Shrine last December sparked controversy from Seoul and Beijing. The shrine honors some 14 Class A war criminals from the Second World War, which the ex-prime minister said should be removed before any sitting prime minister pays a visit. The former prime minister that is, also called on the Japanese government to stand by the 1993 Kono Statement, an apology made by then Japanese administration on the issue of wartime sexual enslavement.
Amid backlash from the agriculture community over South Korea's free trade agreement with China, President Park Geun-hye reached out on this Wednesday, vowing to minimize damage to the sector and calling for new innovations to carry the industry into a new era. Shin Se-min tells us more.
Minimizing the damage to Korea's agricultural sector for the Korea-China Free Trade Agreement is what President Park Geun-hye is promising to the nation's farmers. At an open discussion Wednesday in the city of Ansong, south of Seoul, President Park said the agriculture sector is one of Korea's key industries and that her government would be in close consultations with those involved to make sure their concerns are being heard.
이처럼 개방에 대한 방어적인 대책도 중요하지만 더욱 중요한 것은 우리 앞에 놓인 도전과 변화를 기회로 만들 수 있는 창조적 해법과 할 수 있다는 자신감입니다. 저는 지금 이 순간이 우리 농업과 농촌을 한 단계 더 도약시키느냐 아니면 추락하느냐를 결정짓는 골든 타임이라고 생각합니다.
The president also spoke about ways to revitalize the sector through the integration of information technology. She said the creation of smart farms where farming environments can be monitored in a more efficient manner using biotechnology would be a boon for the sector. While emphasizing the benefits of greater access to the Chinese market, especially for homegrown produce, the president said Korea should continuously utilize free trade deals with its neighboring Asian countries. President Park's promise follows a series of protests and rallies staged by local farmers against the Korea-China FTA, which will remove tariffs on more than 90% of all products traded between the two countries, some 20 years after it goes into full effect. Shin Se-min, Arirang News.
Falling global oil prices have pushed Korea's producer prices to the lowest level since early 2011. And with this trend expected to show in consumer prices down the road, deflation worries could make a comeback. Song Ji-sun has the details.
Korea's producer prices slumped to their lowest point in nearly 4 years in October, due largely to tumbling crude oil prices and strong agricultural harvests. The Bank of Korea says its producer price index fell for the third consecutive month in October to 104.56, down 0.6% from a year earlier and its lowest level since January 2011. Plunging energy prices had a knock-on effect on the prices of industrial products that fell an average of 2.4%. Dubai crude continues to fall like a stone, with the price plunging over 10% last month after dropping 5% in September. The weak global economic recovery is reducing demand for crude, but oil-producing nations in the Middle East are not cutting their output. But that's welcome news for drivers and air travelers, as gas and diesel prices in Korea fell an average of 15% from a year earlier. Agriculture and fisheries product prices also went down, thanks to strong harvests and good catches. Fruit and vegetable prices also tumbled 17% from the previous month. The falling prices have prompted Korea's central bank to slash its inflation outlook for this year by 0.5 percentage point to 1.4%. It has also cut next year's outlook from 2.7 to 2.4%. Song Ji-sun, Arirang News.
Airbus has launched its latest fuel-efficient plane, the A350, and it's here in Korea as part of a 5-nation demonstration tour of Asia. Connie Lee has more on how engineers were able to develop a commercial plane that burns less fuel.
Say hello to the A350 jetliner, the latest passenger plane from European manufacturer Airbus. It's not officially carrying passengers yet, but has arrived in Korea on the first stop of its 11-day Asia tour. The A350 is massive, but lightweight, different from most other passenger planes.
It's an aircraft that brings together fantastic comfort for passengers, but also brings a lot of efficiency for airlines, saves a lot of fuel, it burns 25% less fuel, and it can carry 300 passengers for around 15,000 kilometers.
The plane boasts impressive fuel efficiency. It uses less fuel because it's lightweight, thanks to its use of carbon fiber in place of steel. However, Airbus is not the only company with carbon fiber planes. Boeing has its own fuel-efficient jetliner, the B-787 Dreamliner. Smaller than the A350, this plane uses 20% less fuel than its non-carbon fiber counterparts. Passengers have been able to fly on the B-787 since 2011, and Virgin Atlantic was the most recent company to order the B-787 last month. Qatar Airways will give the Airbus A350 its first commercial flight in mid-December, and Korea's Asiana Airlines will put its own A350s into operation in 2017. Connie Lee, Arirang News.
The next time you're at the store buying soap, make sure to check the label of the ingredients first. If it contains triclosan, you might want to steer clear. Researchers say this widely used chemical could potentially damage your liver. Our Lee Ji-yoon has more.
Should you be worried if you just washed your hands with liquid soap? Maybe. Researchers from the University of California, San Diego School of Medicine recently discovered that a common ingredient in many liquid hand soaps, shampoos, and even toothpastes can trigger liver cancer. The ingredient researchers are worried about is called triclosan. According to the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, triclosan is classified as an antibacterial agent added to products to reduce or prevent bacterial contamination. Then how does something that is supposed to keep us healthy end up having the opposite effect? Researchers found that mice exposed to the chemical for 6 months, equivalent to about 18 human years, became more susceptible to liver tumors than mice not exposed to it. Others say triclosan becomes even more harmful when combined with other compounds.
When triclosan is exposed to sunlight, in the water system, it's converted to dioxins, which are carcinogens.
The FDA says it doesn't have enough evidence to recommend an end to the use of triclosan in consumer products. The U.S. state of Minnesota, however, is currently looking into legislation that would ban products containing triclosan in the state. Lee Ji-yoon, Arirang News.
Pro-democracy protesters in Hong Kong have tried to break into the city's legislature, sparking clashes with police there in the Chinese-controlled territory. To tell us more about this story and others, Paul Lee is joining us from the News Center.
Paul, tensions have once again escalated in Hong Kong at a time when peace and order was returning to the city. How did this event play out?
Well, it began early Wednesday morning when a small group of protesters smashed their way through a side entrance into the Legislative Council building. The break-in prompted a massive security response with some 100 riot police deployed to the scene. It marks the first time demonstrators have tried to forcibly enter a public building since the pro-democracy movement began there nearly 2 months ago. Hong Kong government officials have condemned the illegal action and warned of consequences for the protest groups. And turning to the Middle East, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has promised a harsh and swift response to the killing of 4 Jewish worshippers in Jerusalem. Netanyahu vowed to demolish the homes of the perpetrators and warned the public not to take the law into their own hands. The attack took place at a synagogue in East Jerusalem on Tuesday when 2 Palestinian men stormed the building with guns and meat cleavers, leaving 4 rabbis and a security officer dead. It marks the deadliest assault in the Holy City in 6 years amid a surge in religious conflict. In response, Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas strongly condemned the incident and said the state would not accept any attacks on civilians under any circumstances. And finally, Hollywood star Charlize Theron is backing an urgent UN campaign that aims to end the global AIDS threat by 2030. A set of ambitious targets were outlined by Theron and UN AIDS Director Michelle Sidibe in Los Angeles on Tuesday. The South African actress, who is an official UN messenger of peace, said her commitment to the cause was stronger than ever.
My focus is really in prevention care with adolescents because those are the most vulnerable subjects that we have right now when it comes to this epidemic. And we can see across the board that AIDS-related deaths are dropping across the board at 30%, and we have a 50% raise with adolescents.
The proposed UN strategy hopes to avert nearly 28 million new HIV infections over the next decade. And that wraps up our look at international stories for now. I'll see you back here tomorrow night.
Hello and welcome. I'm Stephen Che with a look at sports. Kicking things off with football, the South Korea men's national team wrapped up their final international friendlies of the year in the Middle East with 1 win and 1 loss. They edged out Jordan last Friday 1-0, and they surely deserved more than the controversial 1-0 loss to Iran on Tuesday. But the latest matches have once again exposed weaknesses in the striker position. Park Ju-young and Lee Kun-ho weren't able to fill the boots of an injured Lee Dong-guk, who at age 35 is still manager Uli Stilica's top scoring threat. Son Heung-min and Lee Chung-yong have made strong impressions on Stilica, who will now be tasked with putting together the roster for the 2015 Asian Cup in January. Meanwhile, South Korea versus Iran was just one of the fixtures taking place on Tuesday, the final day of international friendlies of 2014. And looking at the notable results from across the globe. World champions Germany took down Spain 1-0 thanks to Toni Kroos's 89th minute strike from distance in the otherwise lackluster match. And Portugal beat Argentina in an uninspiring 1-0 win as Cristiano Ronaldo and Lionel Messi played only the first half. Meanwhile, England defeated rival Scotland 3-1 as the Three Lions captain Wayne Rooney, in his 101st cap, scored 2 goals. And moving on to the games of the night, first to the KBL doubleheader. In Anyang, KGC hosted the Samsung Thunders. And KGC grabs the lead early thanks to Park Chan-hee's sharp shooting and never gives it up. They racked up their 3rd win in the last 5 to improve to 5-10 on the season. And in Changwon, the Dongbu Promis' Anthony Richardson drops 14 points in the 2nd quarter, and Kim Ju-sung plays a solid 24 minutes in the victory over the LG Sakers. And over to the V-League. First to the ladies as the IBK Altos took on the Hyundai ENC Hill State. And first place IBK and second place Hyundai ENC battle to the deciding 5th set. But the victory goes to Hyundai. Polina Rahimova gets it done in every way in the big win. And over in Cheonan, the KEPCO Big Storm, back in action after 8 long days, comes right back into form. They beat the Hyundai Capital Skywalkers in straight sets to rebound from 2 straight losses. And finally, with the ISU World Cup of Speed Skating returning to Korea after more than a decade, the nation is ready to take up the task. Korea's champions Lee Sang-hwa and Park Seung-hee took front row at a press conference ahead of the 3-day international event, and there they expressed hopes for good performances in the competition. The ISU World Cup of Speed Skating will run from Friday through Sunday, featuring the best speed skaters from across the globe. And that wraps it up for now. Stay tuned for your weather up next. Have a great night.
Hello everyone, I'm Kim Bo-kyung with the latest weather forecast. Today was a warm autumn day with highs in Seoul reaching 13 degrees and numbers will hover in the seasonal average range as the night progresses. Those of you on the eastern coastline should stay hydrated as a dry weather watch remains in effect. And at the moment, as you can see, we are under partly cloudy skies. Tomorrow is shaping up to be another mild day due to warm winds blowing in from the west, so morning lows should jump about 3 to 4 degrees higher compared to today. Looking ahead, showers are forecast on Friday, but things will clear up just in time for the weekend. On to tomorrow's readings. Seoul makes it to 13, Daegu reaches 16, Busan peaks at 17. On to other regions. Jeju reaches 15, Dokdo hits 13, Mount Kumgang remains cooler. Those are the updates I have for you now. I'll be back with more after midnight. See you then.
Thanks, Bo-kyung. And that's Primetime News on this Wednesday. I'm Kang Chiri. Thanks for joining us.
And I'm Sean Lim. We thank you for watching. Have a great night. We'll see you soon.